Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Lastly, I'll be looking at the comments and responding for the next 3 hours after this video is released. If you want to chat, but you couldn't get your comment in within that time frame, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. I'll put that in the description below, or email me. Thanks. All right, everyone, here we are after market close on Tuesday, August 10th. We're going to take our daily look at SoFi. Just keep in mind that I do a SoFi video every trading day. So if you track SoFi closely or you would like to, subscribing and hitting the bell will keep you up to date with my videos as they come out. SoFi had a nice day today. We're going to go through the chart relatively quickly, and then we're going to go ahead and go through all of the info that has been accumulated directly from inside counsel at SoFi and from investor relations. I'm going to share those details and share what the next steps are subsequent to today. So we are up almost a 0.5% today. So, it was looking nicer at certain points and then struggled. In my mind, it's basically struggling to hold this, was it 1664 support? Let me peel this back a little bit to the year to date. Yeah, the 1664 support, you see the wicks keep coming down on the daily and stretching just under it, right? And so that to me is just sort of a symptom of it trying to flip this uptrend support from resistance to support, and that's intersecting with this 1664, which we knew was going to be a challenging zone for it, but especially because that is what unlocks that attempt at $18 or very close to $18, 1791, which I have been speculating could hold a bunch of buy orders above it if it can breach that 1791 and really establish support over that. So a long way to go to accomplish all of those things, but I think that that's why it's sort of having an extra struggle right now, really confirming that it's going to hold support over 1664 because there is so much room to run above it. That's how I'm interpreting it anyway. The volume today, just on par with the average volume, so, sticking there, and to me that's fine. I mean, I would like to see more volume, especially as we're running up toward earnings, but I know a lot of folks kind of sit that out too. So tomorrow and or Thursday especially might be a relatively slow day, because I don't think we've really seen a run up to earnings. That's sort of what I was hoping for. As you know, I had some options plays that were kind of depending on that, but I'm okay with that not being the case. And I'll just mention this again quickly. I had mentioned in last night's video too. The reason that I'm very okay with that is because hopefully then we don't drop significantly on a good earnings report. I don't know if it'll be a good earnings report, and tomorrow we'll talk about what I think would constitute a good earnings report, just meaning like what I think the public or retail institutions will be looking for from SoFi in that earnings report in the call in order to jump in and hopefully then bolster the price, or at least kind of stabilize the price because of a good report and some good guidance. So we'll talk about that more tomorrow, and let's get into this chart at the moment. So to me, this is still holding up really well, right? It bounced off of our purple zone. It's been following this trend line, this purple trend line up, and then has now started following this green trend line up, trying to establish this 1664, which, like I said, unlocks that run at 1791. On the indicator side of things, the MACD is still continuing to grow bullish momentum. We called this run out right at the bullish crossover right here, and then there, felt like some dangerous waters basically on this day when there was this big pullback, but it pulled back into the purple bounce zone, which we had previously charted, and it proved to hold up and bounced off of there. So good signs there. On the RSI, it still is pinning itself pretty tightly to the midline, and it's doing the work to establish support over it, but it's definitely feeling like it's work. So keeping a close eye on it. But again, to me, this sort of doesn't scream, but sort of leans toward we could just have an appropriate response to earnings. I know that's Lending Club and now today Upstart have had really outsized responses to the earnings that they've released. It'll be interesting to see what SoFi comes with since this is their first one after becoming a publicly traded company and being in the life stage that they are in, still being very much in growth phase. We know last time they reported just 2.25 million users. So like we said, that's sort of a double-edged sword. It's like, okay, so there's not, in the vast scheme of things, there's not that many people using your product, so that's going to impact other things. But then also, there is a ton of room for growth because there's not many people yet using your product. So sorry, it's hard to not get into the earnings being so close to earnings, but I'm going to try to save the rest for tomorrow night. Now, I know this is kind of hard to see, but on the MAs, you do now see this 20. You see this purple line that came down? You can see it now separating itself from this red zone that we had, which is the danger zone, and it's starting to curl up now. So that's a very good sign. It's a bullish movement up, provides additional support, and the sooner it can start to rise, the better, because the next thing that we want to see is the price action getting support over the 50, which is this yellow, and then executing a bullish crossover on the MAs. So we have a bullish crossover on the MACD. We have the RSI holding above the midline. And then if we can effectuate a bullish crossover with the 20 crossing over the 50 as well, the price action above it, obviously, then we'll have just a slew of bullish factors and momentum all lined up, and hopefully that could carry us quite far. But to be seen in the coming days for sure. So we're 6 minutes into the video, I guess minus the preamble that you see. But if you're just interested in the chart update, that's it. So adios. Appreciate you watching, and this is a nice quick video for you. If you want to see what investor relations had to say, we're going to jump into that now. Oh, sorry, one more charting thing. I almost forgot. I had tweeted this out last night just after 10 p.m. because I had noticed something, and the degree to which you want to look into this for yourself, go for it. But there's this is tweeted from my phone, so this is the Webull mobile app, so just know that. But you see here, this is AMD. This is back in, what did I say, mid to late May? Yeah, mid to late May, AMD made this move, and then you see what it resulted in. And to me, that really looks like the beginnings. I'm talking about this area right here, this first run up, like stuck, up, stuck, up, stuck. That's what I'm talking about. That looks very much to me like where we are right now. Big fall off, right? AMD had a big fall off here. The scale is just weird because I had zoomed out on AMD to show the run up that ensued after that. So the scale is weird. But big drop off, jump up, stuck. And I feel like today is still sort of playing that out, right? Stuck. So to me, there's potentially some correlation there of what we saw with AMD after it sold off and then recovered and then was able to establish and jump up really, really strongly. Now, it's just a data point, could mean absolutely nothing. AMD and SoFi have nothing to do with each other, but there are chart patterns that we can look for to sort of signify what may be coming. Everything's a hypothesis until it plays out, so who knows? But let's jump into investor relations. So let me set the stage here. Let me get off of this so you don't just sit there and read it. I had a very generous YouTube watcher, commenter. His name is Wayne. He offered to call Deanna, and then he ended up talking to Emily as well at SoFi in order to try to get some of these questions answered that had been posed and we weren't getting any responses to. I said, I would love for you to do that. He has a background where he has experience talking to lawyers specifically, and I think that probably aided in the situation. So I'm getting this information secondhand from Wayne, who, again, I just know through the YouTube channel, and we've been in pretty tight correspondence, and he's passed me all of these things via email, and again, they were corresponding on the phone. So this is him taking notes from the phone call and then passing it to me, and then I've taken them out of a slew of emails that we had and stitched them together in a Word doc just so it was easier to go through. All right, so that's where this is coming. So thanks, Wayne. If everyone wants to drop a comment, say thanks, Wayne. That would be nice. But also, if you want to ask Wayne any particular questions from the conversation, he's the one who had the conversation. So maybe if I don't know if he will be willing to read the comments and try to respond to anyone, but if you want to ask him a question in the comments, just start the comment off with "Hey Wayne" or "Wayne," something like that, so he knows that it's for him. Okay, so this is just, like I said, the notes that he sent me. So this is his first call was with Deanna Smith, Vice President, Associate General Counsel at SoFi. So he says she couldn't answer most of the questions because of professional constraints or lack of knowledge. She did say that she will contact someone in investor relations who I can call directly. Here's a little bit of what I was able to get from her. Is SoFi actively engaged in discussions? Okay, so you know these questions from the part 2 of Weird Weird World video. She couldn't answer this, as we would expect. This isn't surprising, right? That's totally fine. Do you think that the current situation with Renren lawsuit is affecting the share price? Again, she couldn't answer this, but offered that Renren CEO Chen was no longer a SoFi board member. All right, so there's that. Please confirm that there is an unlock that will happen after earnings and the amount of shares that will unlock by percentage or number of shares. She gave me a guarded answer. She said there is no more lockups save for employees and some big investors. All right, so there's no more lockups, but there are. This has been the ongoing challenge, right? It's like just clarify things. She said that investor relations would have to qualify the numbers, as she wasn't sure. She said that no employees or big investors could sell shares 2 weeks before earnings until 2 days after. Standard security stuff. Okay. Please provide the current public float of SoFi, number of shares. She couldn't confirm the number of shares in the float. I had a number from Investors Business Daily of 596 million out of 794 million shares outstanding. She said that IR would have to confirm, as she had no idea. Okay, so we'll get there in a minute. What remaining lockup periods are there, and what amount of locked shares could each milestone unlock? She couldn't answer. She believed that the employee investor lockup remained, which could sunset 2 days after earnings. We will need to get a confirmation from IR. And then additionally, through some of the other videos that had come out, Deanna confirmed that the Gemini subsidiary is a tax vehicle that has not been used at this point. It is there for the future. Okay, so that's regarding the bank charter. Regarding the curiosity question, he's referring to this, which was from the Weird Weird World. He's referring to this email that this very nice watcher had sent. This is another great researcher with SoFi. Deanna responding with, can I ask where your curiosity in the merger subsidiary stems from? And so regarding that, he said, it must have had an effect, as she stated to me that she looked up to confirm that I did indeed own shares of SoFi. So I don't know if that's common or if it's just because they are inundated or what, but there's a continued effort there to try to clarify people's curiosity and why they're asking questions. So take that for what you will. Now, this is in red just because this denotes a change. So now we're talking about a call that Wayne received from Emily Sheridan, who is the Emily, I would assume, that folks are receiving emails from investor relations. She couldn't share much as they're in a quiet period before earnings. Now, if you're not familiar with the quiet period is something that's standard. Quiet period is a set amount of time in which a company's management and marketing teams cannot share opinions or additional information about the firm. The purpose of the quiet period is to preserve objectivity and avoid the appearance of the company providing insider info to select investors. With an IPO, blah, blah, blah. With a publicly traded company, the quiet period is a reference to the 4 weeks before the end of the business quarter. Okay, so definitely leaning on the quiet period here, which is a real thing. I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but let's keep that in mind because that's going to come back toward the end of the video here. So she did confirm that the first lockup ended on June 27th. Okay, so I think we had confirmed that with previous emails, though to me there was still additional questions beyond that. When I asked her about additional lockups, she pointed me to the documentation. So par for the course. She did say there was a separate lockup for shareholders who bought after the merger, but she wouldn't comment on the quantity. Why that is, I don't know. She wouldn't confirm the outstanding shares, but she did confirm that the number would change with releases from the lockup. So, kind of taking the most obvious stance there, yes, of course, the number will change from additional lockups down the future, or in the future, sorry. This is kind of, if I can just pause here, this is kind of what's been frustrating to me. It's sort of that's like there's no more lockups save for employees and some big investors. So you're saying no more lockups except for this. So you're saying there are more lockups. And then I don't know, maybe I'm off base. I feel like it's a very fair question to ask. What's the potential for future sell-off based on unlock of X percent of shares becoming available to sell? To me, it's not enough to know the date, especially when there's several dates. I think that it's wildly valuable to have some idea of the volume that you could see, because what we saw after June 27th was a huge uptick in volume. Remember those days of 30, 40, 50 million shares being traded, predominantly sold in a day, and that huge increase in volume, which was, to me, the biggest indicator that, hey, yeah, lockup did just end. Where do you think all of this volume and selling pressure is coming from? So in a world where you're trying to make a good investment decision and base it around periods of potential volatility, potential reasoning for selling off, increase in volume, things like that, to me, knowing the number and the dates just transparently would make a lot of sense. But again, maybe for who knows why I'm off base, feel free to mention that in the comments. I don't mind if people say I'm off base. That's totally fine. Again, this is just me feeling like, as an investor, that investor relations at that company would be the authoritative voice to be able to clarify these things, and why they wouldn't be able to or wouldn't want to clarify them is confusing to me. Okay, moving on. Regarding institutional ownership, so this came from also the Weird Weird World video, the PDF that I was just having us look at, the slides, where I talk about very, very low institutional ownership. She said that they are not surprised internally about the 3% number, meaning that 3% is the institutional ownership is only accounting for 3%. She said that after earnings, I think this is maybe the most important part of all of this. She said that after earnings, the management team will be hitting the road to talk with institutional investors. Now, Wayne followed that up and speculated with, do we think that that seems pretty obvious then that this is going to be a very good earnings report, because they're going to then go hit the road and talk to institutional investors? Seems like a weird thing to do if you're just trying to sort of talk your way out of having a bad earnings call, but who knows? And again, even if internally they think it's going to be a good call, the public and external perception could totally be the opposite of that. We've seen that happen several times. But again, I think that's because of guidance issues and or running up prior to the earnings call that then prices in a bunch of things. So, take that for what you will, but this is the info that's been relayed to me. Now, on the next page here, to finish things off, I told her about your emails and the number of times you had reached out to IARN and that you had never received a reply. She pulled up your emails and said, we can't answer those questions. She added that they elected to not reply to emails with questions that they could not answer. And as a reminder, this is me now, here are the questions I emailed. This is just a screenshot of my email. Confusion, 83%. Summary reporting end of June, so we're saying end of July. SEC documents are confusing. Could you shed any light? So I don't know why this first email, which has been opened over 10 times and never responded to me, they could answer this. To me, she did answer this here. She did answer this in other emails that we've come to see. When I first sent that email, I didn't have that screenshot. No one had forwarded me emails yet. She did confirm that the first lockup ended on June 27th. So why she couldn't have answered that on July 23rd? About June, right? Because the question here is June, whether or not the lockup period ended at the end of June. So to me, it's not really the case. That question could be answered. She's answering it now. Want to check back. Who's been unlocked as of today, July 27th. That's because that would have been the 20 within 30 trading days, I think, if the count's right, but very, very close to there. So that seems to be mostly where they're pointing to the documentation. So maybe that one they felt like they actually couldn't answer. But again, to me, I think this one they could. And then here I ask about the public float, which they're still not willing to answer. Now, where we go from here, we're not quite done yet with going through that documentation. We're done, but let me just go to the chart, because why not? Let's see what's happening in the after hours while I tell you where we go from here. So where we go from here is to the extent to which investor relations is leaning on the quiet period in order to keep some of this information under wraps. I've already spoke to Wayne. We both think it's a good idea. It's at least worth a try for him to reach back out after the quiet period has ended and say, hey, since we're through the quiet period, and that's a thing of the past now, or at least for the time being, I'd like to re-raise these questions. If you could answer them now that we're out of the quiet period. So when it's the appropriate time, we'll do that, and I'll share what we learned at that time, and hopefully it gives us some additional transparency and clarity so that we as retail investors can make as smart of decisions as folks who have more information available to them can. And that's been my hope all along, and is still my hope. And it's continues to be interesting, but huge thanks to Wayne. It means a lot. I really appreciate it, and we have more work to do. So awesome that you're willing to do that. All right, folks. Well, that will do it for this video. Tomorrow, like I said, we're going to do a rundown of the chart, do a quick rundown of what I think is going to be important for earnings, and then it'll be Thursday. And Thursday, just as a heads up, I think everything that'll need to be said about earnings will be said. So I'm not going to be able to do the video after the earnings call on Thursday, predominantly because my Thursdays are already quite tight time-wise, and I typically have to do the videos just before the market closes on those days so that I can be wrapped up. So I think that that's fine. And then on Friday, if there's any fallout to really talk about from the earnings call, we can do that then. But I don't think me doing coverage of it that night and putting out a video at like 9 or 10 at night is really going to be that additive to the response from earnings. To me, that'll be apparent from just talking heads out there, probably even threads about SoFi, and just the reaction from the after hours and the following day pre-market order flow. We'll kind of shed light on that in the most practical way. Okay, well, thanks a bunch for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.